Are markets telling us something? This is a look, certainly, at the S&P 500, but if you look at 9 consistent days of drops, something we haven't seen since 1980 when this fellow, I think, named Ronald Reagan, had won the election. But for the last 3 months, they have another thing they do. They look at the markets and how they do 3 months prior to the election, and that has been down. And normally, when that is the case, the party in power of the White House, that would be the Democrats, loses the White House. I don't know if there's anything to that, but I know Gary Kaltbaum does, follows this stuff very, very closely. Lizzie MacDonald here as well, Trish Regan as well. So, Gary, do you put much stock in the markets telegraphing, again, they fear the unknown, and Donald Trump is the unknown, and that they are bracing for, I guess in that case, a Trump win?
I don't think so. Look,
well, maybe you could just sort of humor me because we built up a whole segment. But it's your call.
Look, I think this is more about the diminishing returns of easy money. Keep in mind the Dow and S&P is where it was 2 years ago, and the broad-based Russell 2000 and the NYSE 3 years ago, that's where they are. I think that's what's going on. And this, the gargantuan growth of government. I think there's a component of the election. I'm not sure there's that much. I think there's going to be reaction one way or the other, and I think they're going to go back to the norm.
What do you think?
I think it's the market's going down because, you know, that big wall of worry we always talk about? Right. It's a big wall of cash. BlackRock says $50 trillion worldwide parked in cash. I think investors are taking a wait and see. And we already know that, you know, Goldman Sachs has said this, and so has Mohamed El-Arian, that if there's a Democratic sweep of all 3 branches of government, that means up to 4% downturn in the market within months.
Make that 10.
So I think it's a wall of worry.
Wow.
I think it's cash.
You know, Trish, one of the arguments has been the markets ideally like split government. So in that case, the prevailing argument had been Hillary Clinton wins, but not the Senate and House going her way, which to their mind is fine. They can live with that.
Right, because it's a status quo, right? You'll continue on in this environment where Washington isn't able to get out of its own way. They can't do a darn thing, and yet the Federal Reserve is going to be left as the only game in town, and the more accommodative the Fed is, well, the better that is for asset prices.
So all of that's kind of ending for them.
If Donald Trump wins, yes. You add into that, because I think he actually will push to get some policy changes through, and he's, you know, willing to call out both sides, Republican or Democrat, to get these ideas through in a very public way. So there's the threat of a change in policy.
So
there's
he
also
wins
the threat.
Tuesday, what?
If he wins Tuesday, the market's going to have a hard time. You're going to see a lot of volatility. I think that there would be some sell-off.
Yes.
You see a V-shaped Brexit down there.
Definitely V-shaped.
The problem with the status quo. The problem with the status quo is federal spending is $3.8 trillion this year, $4.1 trillion next year. The last year of Clinton's presidency, it's $1.8 trillion. That is government sucking all that money out of the economy. And if we continue on that trajectory, government's growing, the economy has to slow.
No matter who's in charge.
And that's the head.
No matter who's in charge.
You got it.
You know what stinks about what Gary just said is that government spending is added to GDP numbers. It makes it look like the GDP is going up, and then government jobs are going up.
That's very, very true.
And it just doesn't feel right. I mean, Gary's totally right. It's like
well, don't encourage.
Okay, sorry.
You can say that again if you want.
You know, it just doesn't feel like we have that great. I get it.
You got to go in there.
We don't have great productive assets.
You got to slash, right?
Now.
I mean, the problem with government is government spends whatever government has, and they think, you know, as much as the economy is growing. We've talked about this before. If you see GDP growth, you need to have spending growth to coincide with that GDP growth, and a lot of liberals get very angry that you haven't seen.
This is a dumb question, but when did
increase.
they put such a disproportionate weighting on government spending into GDP? Because by that math, then you'd want to always have the government spending to boost the economy.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
1842, I think.
Really?
We don't know.
Let me ask you, we talked about the market savior, was this fellow named Ronald Reagan, but it took a long time for the markets to fall in love with him. So if, let's say, the markets tank on a Donald Trump victory, if that were to come to pass, the polls notwithstanding, how long would it take the markets to fall in love?
Well, I think if the markets saw an increase in GDP, and not just, you know, not just 1-2%, but a substantial increase in GDP. If they felt as though the U.S. economy was back on stable footing.
But it took Reagan a couple of years.
If they felt like wages were actually moving in the right direction and the Fed had to be less active, I think the markets would come around absolutely. I mean, the markets want growth.
But if Donald Trump pounds away at Ford, you can't go there. Not good for the markets.
Trade war.
He's got to back away from all this talk. And I'm just hoping somebody like a Steve Moore or and Anthony Scaramucci, who are advisors, take them on the side and say, slow your roll. Either
I think he's a lot more pragmatic than
we hope.
You know, I don't, but I could be wrong. But one of the things, you're from Florida. You're in Orlando, right?
Yes.
How does that state look right now?
As I said to you, I see ads on televisions 20-1 for Clinton. That's number one. And that's just not good news. And I just don't think that the ground game is there. Phone calls, my Democratic friends, and I still have some, are getting 10 and 15 calls a day. I've received one call from Ivanka Trump on tape in the last 3 weeks.
So when you pick up the phone, is there a little bit of a delay and then it starts? Hi.
It's the robot. You got it. And if that's the measuring stick, that means the Republican Party has not learned the lesson of the 2 last elections, and that is you've got to have
always
a ground
had a
game.
weakness.
That's
I mean,
true.
the ground game and all that.
The same stories that Gary says being played out in Nevada and Michigan. The ground game is there, and when people see the quality of the ads that she's showing, they're feeling scared about Donald Trump when they see those
And just
ads.
to make one more point.
Here's a question for you. I mean, hey, we're in the TV business, so we want people watching ads. Dare I say they don't, but you know, people do move around when the commercials come on, and there's something more authentic about seeing a candidate out there at a rally or in an interview live on television as opposed to a commercial. I mean, there really is. And so, yeah, the commercials might be scary, et cetera. She's dwarfed him in terms of being able to really push
But we
these
read into
commercials
feelings,
out.
right? We read into feelings that, like the Hispanic.
Look at how close he is.
Right. And exactly.
Which is amazing. And
now, but the assumption is that, you know, the Republicans don't ever win the Hispanic vote. The closest, I guess, was George Bush, right? But again, 35% is about the best Republicans can hope for. And it's gone downhill since those days. But what if, in this Hispanic count that we are getting, someone like a Trump gets up to 40%? Or, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, he'll still lose it, but he doesn't lose it by as much as people thought.
Right. Exactly. And the variable here is people keep saying, oh, the Republican number of votes early or the Democrat number of votes early. There could be Reagan Democrats coming in early to vote for Trump. We don't really know right now, especially...
But how reliable is it in your state, in Florida?
the hanging chad
Well,
state.
I know. but that Democratic ballots mean Democratic votes, Republican ballots mean Republican votes, because it's broken down, more Democratic ballots have gone out and been returned than have Republican ballots.
Normally, I would say it's consistent. This year, who the heck knows? I speak to a lot.
I kind of thought since you're from Florida, you'd help us out.
I speak to a lot of my Dem friends that are definitively voting for him, not because of him, but they hold their nose when it comes to her. All this stuff that's come out, they are quite not happy with her.
You were going to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, but I think that, you know, and we've talked about this before, party almost in some ways doesn't matter anymore because things have gotten to such a state in some of these places where people feel so disenfranchised and the political elites are so against them that you get a lot of blue-collar Democrats, Reagan Democrats, saying, I'm gonna switch sides this time.
Can I just add one more note? 2008, Obama spent $11 per vote, McCain $6 per vote, but he doubled the spending. I don't think Trump has enough spending compared to what Hillary Clinton has, and if that's the case, that's a problem.
But it is extraordinary. Before, just a month ago, he was going in under tough pressure in that second debate and turn it around 180 right now.
Yeah, it's all about maintaining that momentum.
And he does have momentum. That's what he definitely does have, and that could mean a lot. Tuesday we'll know.
Yeah, just really.
Yeah, really. And you will be live.
We're going to be providing insight and analysis, but Kennedy reminded me also results. So
Really?
How
about it?
big thing. Yeah, to see or no.